So, welcome back to From Corporate to Cash Flow. We are Andrea Cannon and Liz Schwab, two pharmacists navigating the process of building time and financial freedom through real estate investing and lending while working our day jobs. Navigating this journey is difficult, but our podcast guests are experts in showing us how it's done. Today, we have Lisa Moore here with us, and we're super excited to have her on. Thanks so much for joining us, Lisa.
Yes,
thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So we would love to hear a little bit more about your journey. So tell us about it, and how did you get started and transition to where you are today?
So I got started by house hacking. I moved to Utah in 2016, and I knew I wanted to buy a house. And I knew when I bought that house that I wanted to house hack and have some of my mortgage paid by not a permanent renter. I did short term, but paid by somebody else. So once I got that small taste of that income from renting out a bedroom, I was completely hooked, and I knew that was going to be my ticket. I didn't know exactly how in real estate, but I knew I was just going to run with it and go from there. So house hacking, to me, that's the best way to get started, and that was definitely what catapulted my journey into real estate.
How many times did you do house hacking? Did you just do it once, or did you do it multiple times?
No, my husband and I have now done it 4 times, and we actually are still house hacking. We rent our basement still. So it's just such easy money. It's a little too easy to give up at times, but
yeah, I feel like that's one of the easier ways to get into real estate with the house hacking, especially in Utah when the housing prices are so expensive, right? But of course, you do have to live with someone. Hopefully it's separated out in a basement, or you have some degree of separation, but you are still living with another individual.
Yeah. My very first one, I had a tiny 700 square foot 2-bed 1-bath house that I rented out the bedroom, so we shared a bathroom and everything. It wasn't ideal, but I knew I was willing to sacrifice for a short period of time, a couple of years, to be able to grow and get to further along. Right now it's a basement. They have a separate entrance. We don't share any space. They have separate laundry, separate everything. So it's nice not having to share any interior space or exterior. We even have our yard blocked off. So it's much better than when I did it the first time.
Yeah, I know it sounds like you've scaled a lot since then. I know we'll get to that a little bit later, but it's always interesting to hear how people first start off, how they really get into it. And I think I really relate with that. You were hooked once you got that concept right. And I think that for a lot of people, it's just finding that entrance where they get hooked. And then from there, it's just, a snowball effect.
Yes. Yeah. It's just such a powerful way to be able to build passive income and build wealth, and whatever that is that you want to do with it, whether that's exiting a corporate job or just being able to stockpile money and have retirement so you can retire early or do whatever you want to do. It's a great avenue to do that.
That's awesome. And I know that you've done this house hacking thing 4 times. Have you kept all of those properties, or kind of how many properties do you have now? Tell us a little bit about what your portfolio looks like.
So now we have 8 properties. We have 38 doors, and we're LPs on another 192 doors. And we've sold 2 properties. The very first house that I bought, that small one, we sold that off. Utah kind of went crazy with appreciation, and the fact that I had lived in it for 2 of the last 5 years, we were getting to that point. We had moved out. So I bought it in 2017. Moved out in 2020, and then it was actually about a year and a half later that once we moved out, there's a lot of equity in it. And when you sell a house that you lived in, you don't have to pay capital gains tax on it up to a certain amount, $250 if you're single, $500 if you're married. So I was right around that $250 point. So I knew that I could sell and take all of that gain and not have to pay taxes on that. So that was a huge reason for selling, because the house, it was cash flowing, but not that much. And what we did with that $250 was far more cash flow. We sold that. We bought a triplex. We rehabbed it. We put money towards another property. So the money that we got out of that one property allowed us to buy another property, rehab, and money towards another one. So it really helped us be able to snowball into a couple more properties and not have to pay any taxes on that gain that we had because it was my personal residence.
And just to clarify for anyone listening, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the rule is you have to live in the house for the past at least 2 of the previous 5 years that you owned the house. Is that correct? To avoid paying capital gains?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So obviously that's hugely advantageous to you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So like any house that like we'd move out of, it was okay. Do we want to sell it and capitalize on that gain, or do we want to keep it? There's one other one that we sold. We hadn't lived in it for the last 5 years. It's actually one of the first properties my husband bought. But that was one that just had a lot of equity in it. It was the last single family home that we had. It did have a basement apartment, but that was another one with the equity in it. It was worth selling for us. But the other ones that we house hacked a triplex, a duplex. Those we still own just because the other good thing of when you live in a place is you get better financing. So our interest rate was just super low. And just the cash flow of those, like, yes, there's some equity in it, but there's other ways we can get that equity, which we've been doing. But the property was just too good of a deal, too good of a property. We don't want to let some of them go yet. So the other ones we've house hacked, we still own and continue to rent out. So.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So obviously you're very financially savvy just based off of everything you've said and your history of your previous W-2 as a financial analyst. So can you help us understand what kind of inspired you to look for more of the passive income? I know you mentioned it briefly, you kind of got that taste, but also what made you take the leap to finally leave that W-2?
So I knew, like, I love to travel. I moved to Utah to be near the mountains. And I knew I could never live the life I wanted to live having a corporate job. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I had to find some way to be able to generate income without having to sacrifice 40, 50, 60 hours a week of work. And when I got that taste of real estate, that's where I saw the potential for that. And what really made me figure out, okay, what do I have to do to quit was when COVID happened. I was a financial analyst, worked in the corporate world. When COVID hit, like a lot of people, we were sent home. So we were working remotely. Mm-hmm. And during the whole time we were working remotely, our, executive team was saying, we don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be some sort of hybrid when we start coming back into the office. Fast forward like a year and a half, it was June of 2021. And we got an email that stated, everyone back in the office full-time, no exceptions on these dates based on your position. And I got that and I was like, oh, F no. Like, my entire team was also global. Like, I supported a global sales team. So when I was on calls, there's nobody that I was even talking to within Salt Lake. Like, the only time that I was in a meeting with people in Salt Lake is just if our department had a meeting. But everyone I supported was global. And the North American guy that was local to Utah, he never came into the office. So I was like, why are you making us all come back into the office? We've been working remote for a year and a half. Everything's still getting done. If anything, I was probably working more because it's like, oh, I can like quickly pop over and do this. And I can quickly pop and do this, like, because it was home and it was easy. But there was no exceptions. And so when I got that email, I was like, all right. So I looked at our budget, I looked at our finances and figured out what do I have to increase our cash flow by to be able to quit? And one thing that so many people say is, I need to be able to replace my income before I can quit. And I always challenge people on that because if you're living paycheck to paycheck, okay, then maybe, but what can you cut back on? Are you driving a brand new car that's a $7,000-$8,000 payment that you could trade that thing in and have no car payment? You're going to be driving an older car, but that could save you hundreds of dollars a month. Are you living in a super expensive apartment that you could cut back on? Like, there's so many ways that you can really cut back and probably save more money than you think. So you don't necessarily have to replace all of your income. In some instances, you might have to. I just always challenge people on that. I'm like, do you really have to? And for us, so much of my income was going towards real estate and we were house hacking. Our tenants were paying for like 92% of our housing expense at the time. So for me, like I didn't have to replace all of my W-2 income. We had to make sure that we had enough replaced to like cover our expenses, but I was willing to cut back and not spend as much, not travel as much for the short period, knowing that I was going to be able to commit all of my time to real estate. And that was going to be a far better situation for us and a much better decision in the long term. So it's like sacrificing in the short term for a couple of years, knowing that in the long term, it's going to be much better. Because in my W-2, yes, you can end up making lots of money. I was making six figures. I was doing well, but I was never going to get to the point of the financial income that I wanted. And I knew I was never didn't matter how much money I made. I wasn't going to be able to take 6 months off a year like I do now and travel and not have to worry about things. So even if I was making a lot more money, I still wouldn't have the time freedom. And for me, the time freedom is like my number one thing. So that was a huge, huge part for me, was when they said back in the office full-time, no exceptions. I was like, and we were already in the process of, okay, when can I quit? And our goal was to do it by the next year, the end of the next year. So that it moved it ahead a year and a half. But yeah, that definitely lit a fire under me. And I was like, all right, what do we got to do?
Yeah.
And
I love this. I love your story because it's so methodical, right? And everyone's journey is unique in what they end up wanting to do, whether they leave their W-2, whether they do both, whether they passively invest. But I think your point on time freedom like really hits, obviously, with both Andrea and myself. At previous jobs, like 9 to 5:30, sitting at a desk, couldn't move. You had 10 minutes to go to lunch, but you had to be at your desk attached to a phone. So I really relate to that. And I think a lot of my efforts and my goals revolve around that time freedom. And you're absolutely right that a lot of times people in the W-2 can't achieve that. And so I just wanted to validate that I think that speaks to a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, even when I had the W-2 and it would become time for raises or whatever in certain jobs, I'd ask, every 6 months or 12 months, ask for, something. A lot of the times it wasn't asking for more money. It was asking for more vacation time.
Right.
And that was something that I was able to negotiate a lot. So at one of my jobs, I had 4 weeks of vacation and they're like, you cannot tell anyone because everyone else has like 2 weeks and they've been here for 20 years. But I was willing to take more vacation over a larger raise. Like that meant more to me having more time than having more money. So that's another thing that I, even throughout my corporate career, was always time. Time is my most important thing. And how can I have as much time off as possible?
Preach.
So.
Yes, I absolutely love that. You're like speaking to my soul for sure. That's really amazing. Just thinking about this journey you've been on, like what's been the biggest lesson that you've learned that you kind of wish that you knew sooner in the process? As you're kind of going through, maybe deciding on your investments or anything like that, we'd love to hear about it.
That podcasts like this exist, that other people invest in real estate. Like when I started, I had no idea about Bigger Pockets or real estate meetups, just completely like going blind and going at this by myself. And it wasn't until I had quit my job, in that same year that I quit my job was when I learned about podcasts and Bigger Pockets and all its resources. And I was like, are you like, what? And then of course I'm like, of course this resource is out there. Like, but it never, dawned on me to be like, oh, there must be something out there. And somebody like John, my husband, one of his friends is like, hey, there's this group called the RIA, Real Estate Investor Association. He's like, they're having an expo. He goes, you guys should go to it. It's in a few weeks. And we're like, okay, sure. And it just like opened our eyes up to all of these resources and relationships. And the relationships are so, so important. I mean, we fumbled through doing stuff, like I say on our own, but like we still had a team. We still had, a real estate agent helping us and a mortgage person helping us and whatnot. But having people around that are doing the same thing as you or trying to or ahead of you to be able to just like talk to and learn from and bounce ideas off of is huge. And one of my mentors, Vina Jetty, she always says, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. because you never know when there's gonna be a situation. You know, anytime I have somebody come to me with like a sub 2 or something like that, like you ladies are the first ones I think about. And I'm like, Andrea and Liz, like they do that in Utah. You know, that's not my area of expertise. So it's like networking with people and just letting them know what you're doing and what you're working on. It just, when something comes across somebody's desk, it's immediately like, we do multifamily. And so when something comes across, like I want people to be like, okay, Lisa, she's a multifamily investor. So to me, like getting out and networking and building relationships, even if you have no idea what you want to do in real estate, that's fine. Like just going to meetings and talking to people, because everyone has their strengths and everyone has their weaknesses. And, you know, I was told the biggest lie of all growing up of like, work on your weaknesses. And that was such crap. Crap recommendations.
Thank you.
All throughout school was like, work on your weaknesses. I'm like, no, not that you don't want to better yourself with something you're not good at, but focus on your strengths. Like there's certain things, like I suck at writing. Like John will check my emails before I send them. I will like AI chat GPT check them. Like writing is not my strength. So I'm not going to sit there and like be like, oh, I'm going to become a blogger. I'm going to try and like, no, like that doesn't, and I don't enjoy doing it. So knowing what your strengths are, you have to be honest about what your weaknesses are. And those are the people that you want to seek out. So like, if you're someone who loves to analyze deals, but you hate talking to people and you hate, you know, just having to build relationships, when you're out networking, like you want to find the people that are good at what you suck at, because they're the ones that are going to end up being able to partner with and be able to help you. Because if you just stay with people that do the same thing as you, like if you partner with 3 people and all of you analyze deals, well, who's going to build the relationships with lenders? Who's going to be the one to go out and find the deals? Who's going to be the one to capital raise? Like you have to have people that are on your team that are good at different things. And going to these networking things, once I realized they existed, was just like the relationship building is huge. It's so important.
I feel like that's almost the single most important bit of advice that, you know, I had kind of realized as well. And I always really believed in that. Like, why would I work on my weaknesses? That doesn't make any sense. So to hear you say that, I'm like, yes, thank you so much. But just to give you a plug too, it's funny and ironic you said that, because anytime I hear multifamily, I'm like, let's tag Lisa. Like, let's shoot this to Lisa. So you're already doing
always.
Yeah, it is very much true, right? You want people to know and what you are associated with, and then those connections just start flowing. So also very true.
And I love that you highlighted that, like while you were, you know, kind of building and doing your house hacking and really focused before you really left, you didn't really realize that there were these other resources out there, because I think a lot of people are going through their current journey by themselves, right? They're looking around at their coworkers, and their coworkers are perfectly content, probably just going to work every day, coming home, hanging out with their family. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but some people want a little bit more than that. And when you're looking around at the people you know immediately, they probably don't fit, you know, what you need from a real estate supportive community, right? They don't have the experience. They're telling you, oh, well, my great uncle lost money when he bought an apartment building or something, or, you know, like a single family home, and it was right before 2008 or something crazy like that, right? And so I think trying to go a little bit outside of your comfort zone with people, not that you even have to go out and meet people necessarily, just finding things like Bigger Pockets or Facebook groups or something like that to network, even just online, is a really good start for things to kind of kickstart your journey. So that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I know you had mentioned you had purchased a very large unit recently, correct? And so what I would love to hear is maybe what habits or routines have you developed to maybe stay productive, or maybe like keep you on track with your goals, because it feels like you're being pulled in so many different directions, especially when you acquire such, you know, large units. So I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so we just bought an 18 unit right outside of Chicago, and that was the hardest thing going from the corporate world to being an entrepreneur and self-employed, is nobody's checking what you're doing. Nobody's making sure that you show up at 9 and leave at 5 or there longer. Like, you're 100% on your own. So, you know, so many people talk about motivation, and I do know, like, I'm fortunate where I can self-motivate myself quite well. So like, I don't need a ton of the motivation. Some people I know, like every morning, that's what they do. Like, they listen to 5 minutes of motivation because that's what they need to like get going. For me, it's like the night before I write down 3 things I accomplished for the day and like the 3 main things I want to accomplish the next day. And I also am very, very specific on like time blocking. So I'll look and be like, okay, what do I need to get done this week? And I have a sheet that I fill out, and it's like, here's my meetings. And I can then fill in, okay, I need to like Sunday night, Monday, what am I doing Monday? And then Monday night, okay, what did I get done? What did I not get done? Okay, here's what I'm doing Tuesday. Like, to just wing it. Like, I didn't do that at first, and I just wasn't as productive, not because I was just going, yeah, I don't want to work. Like some days, yeah, I was like, I'm going to go for a hike. I'm going to go ski. We're going to go backpack. Like, but when it came to working, it was just, I wasn't as organized. Just when you have all the time in the world and all these things to do, like it was just not being focused. So I really focusing on like what our goals are. Like, okay, this is what we want to achieve this year. What do we need to do? What's the first things that we need to do to achieve that? So last year we had sold the property, but we didn't do a 1031. We talked to our CPA and we're like, hey, we want to sell this, not do a 1031. What does that mean? Like, what we have to buy in real estate. So last year we knew like we had to buy a few million dollars worth of real estate. So I knew like each week it was, okay, I need to be analyzing deals. I need to be making offers. I need to be doing that. So it's looking at like what our goals are and just writing everything down and time blocking and being very specific, because you can easily, I mean, I can't believe it's already like almost the end of March. Like that's Q1, like almost a quarter of the year has already gone by. And if you're not diligent about being disciplined, like motivation only gets you so far. You got to be disciplined. Like there's days that I get up and I'm like, I don't want to effing do this. Like, I just want to bury my head in the sand and not do any real estate. Like, especially last year when I was analyzing so many deals and like none of them would pencil. I was like, oh my God, if I have to analyze one more fucking deal, that doesn't make sense. Like,
dropping the F-bombs already, but yes.
Yeah, sorry.
I love it.
But it was just like, but I had my checklist. I'm like, no, I need to check off that I did these and analyze 10 deals and whatnot. So having like, for me, writing down, here's what I need to achieve every week and like physically checking that off and tracking really helps me. So those days where I don't have motivation, I'm like, I got to check the box. I don't want to put a big X in all of these. I got to get some of these done. So being disciplined on your time is definitely the hardest, but time blocking and really writing things down and being organized is key.
Yeah, I do want to just highlight one thing you said, because I think it's really important. And I think that sometimes people want to get into real estate, and so they'll jump into any potential deal, right? And as you mentioned, like you kind of got, maybe not burn out, but tired of analyzing all these deals, because not all of them pan out. Lots of them never pan out, but you still need to analyze the deal. And I feel like you do a very good job of being meticulous in analyzing your deals, to where you would be very confident if you went forward with that it would be, as successful as you could be in your preparation. So I think that that's a really good point, that it takes a lot of time even to just analyze these, right? So it's not even, of course, once you have the house or the units, that's a lot of time, but there's a ton of time up front that goes into actually analyzing the deals.
Yeah, there's probably more time spent trying to find the deals and analyze deals and all that than like when we actually own the deal and have it stabilized. Yeah. I mean, the amount of time that we spent last year looking for the deal, buying that 18 unit, and we have spent far less, and we're rehabbing, we're dropping a couple $100,000 into this, rehabbing all 18 units. So it's not like it was a turnkey thing. Like we were out there for 3.5 weeks, January, February, we were out there for a week and a half over New Year's. And it's still less time than what we spent last year just trying to find the deal to buy, especially now. Mm-hmm. A few years ago, it was a lot easier to find deals, but these last couple of years, it's hard to find a deal that pencils. We bought one deal a year the last few years just because that's all that we could find. And we weren't going to buy something just for the sake of buying it. So yeah, it is a lot of time and it's a lot of work to find a deal and to do all that due diligence on something. So it's not like when I, quit the corporate world, it's like, yeah, I don't have to work. I don't have to, but if I don't, then I'm not going to acquire any more assets and I'm not going to get the financial goals that I want to achieve. So for us, we are 100% financial driven where, we have, here's what our dream life looks like. What does that financially look like? Like, what do we have to make, each year, each month to achieve that life. And I want to buy the least amount of properties to achieve that goal, because that means that I'm buying properties that are the most efficient, making a good cash flow, and also matching up with our lifestyle. Like short-term rentals, yes, make more money, absolutely, but they're a lot more time. We dabbled in that. We suck at managing them. That was a lesson. I was like, I'm not good at this. I'm never going to manage one again. I'll buy one and I'll gladly pay the 25, 30% to somebody to manage it for me, but I will never manage one because I suck at it. Like, so that was just something too, making sure that what we're investing in matches with what our lifestyle and what our goals are. And that's something I don't think, and I didn't do this, like, I didn't think like, okay, what are my goals? But how does that match up in real estate? Like, we were able to take a step back and look, okay, what do we want our lifestyle to look like? Is the trajectory we're going and what we're investing in match up with that? Because I know people who love their W-2 and they don't want to quit, but they want to build passive income because all of their money right now is in retirement accounts. And I don't think a lot of people think about, okay, if I want to retire in my 50s, all your retirement money is tied up until late 50s, 60s. Definitely. And I don't think a lot of people realize that or really think of that, where it's like, if you want to retire in your 50s, you better be putting money in something else besides retirement accounts, because you can't touch those when you're in your 50s without big penalties. So that's something that I think more people need to realize and think about. So even if you love your W-2 and you don't want to quit it, but you want to be able to retire earlier and not work until you're 60, investing in real estate could be a great option to be doing passively and investing with operators, and you benefit from it and start to build your nest egg that you can get access to early if you actually want to retire before you're 60.
I swear to God, you're in my head. And we almost need a second episode, I think, with you, because I just think you are so wise. Like, not to fangirl, but it's so, everything you say, it's such good advice, though. Because to your point, I was talking to someone and they're like, hey, when do you want to retire? So let's say you want to retire at 55. You're like, well, you're going to be penalized if you take your money out of your retirement accounts for a certain age. And you're like, well, wait a second. Well, how does that work? To your point, yes. Right? What money are you going to be living off of? So absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends right now, they're in that situation. They're like, we technically have enough money that we could retire. We're in our, late 40s, early 50s, but we can't touch any of it. And that never, it's just not taught. Nobody educates anyone on finances anymore. It's like, just put your money in a 401k and you're good to go. It's like, no, there's so much more to it. And that, to me, especially our generation and younger, I don't bank on there being Social Security. I don't bank any of that stuff.
Me either.
Not even factored in to my, what will my money be when I retire? If we have Social Security, that would just, be an extra. But yeah, I don't think as many people really think about oh shit, all these retirement accounts are 59 and a half or later. I better start thinking of something. So if I want access to money in my 50s or 40s, I can do that.
Yeah. And I really love how you highlighted that you're focusing on investment types that fit you, right? Because there's a variety of different things out there. And both Liz and I have definitely done some trial and error in our investing journey so far to realize, okay, this is not something we really enjoy doing. And we want to make the pivot, right? And so you talked about having single family homes, and now you're kind of pivoting to multifamily. Talked about, those, doing short-term rentals and pivoting out of that. And I think that's just super important for people to assess their lifestyle goals and that as well. Any particular advice for people to try to figure out how to find that niche that they're interested in specifically and how to assess that?
I mean, to me, it's really looking at what you want your life to look like. And I think, you look at that as what makes you happy, not what society tells or what the gurus are doing. It's I could care less about having a private jet and having a yacht. Would it be cool to fly around in a private jet? Yeah. Do I want to work hard enough to get to the point where I can fly on a private jet? No, I'm fine, getting my Delta Comfort upgrades and traveling a hell of a lot more and working a hell of a lot less. So to me, it's really figuring out what you want your life to look like. And some people absolutely love building a business, and that's awesome. Be the next Ken McElroy, be the next Brandon Turner. If that's what you truly love and what you're passionate about. But I think that's what people really need to focus on, is what makes them happy and what they actually want their life to look like. And then that can help you narrow down what area of real estate, because if you're like, you know what, I don't want to be super active, well, flipping and wholesaling is probably not going to be a good option for you. You might be better off doing passive investing or doing, larger syndications and maybe capital raising or partnering with people in some way like that. So I think just really figuring out lifestyle, what you want your life to look like. And do you want to be very active? Do you want to be more passive? And then that really will help narrow down the areas of real estate, because there's just some areas of real estate that are super, super passive, some that are super active, like the short-term rentals. I have friends that just are so freaking good at short-term rentals. My friend Raven Star, she has a boutique hotel that was just on the news in California being featured. And she has that like design mind where I walk in and I'm like, I don't know, paint it yellow. And she's just like this creative genius that makes things look awesome. And she loves it. So it's like, find out what you're passionate about. And there's going to be something in real estate that you can do that will benefit you and that will allow you to grow and build your wealth and find people to work with to help continue to grow and be happy along the way, living the lifestyle you want.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And kind of on the theme of just lifestyle and, kind of goals outside of real estate, just thinking about, we both love travel and exploring and hiking and all kinds of things. So just thinking about that, we'd love to end the podcast hearing a little bit more about maybe your ultimate bucket list adventure or something you're looking to accomplish this year, any either or, whatever you got for us.
Ooh, sometime, maybe not this year, but sometime in the next, we'll say like the 2 to 3 year range. I want to make it to Egypt. We were supposed to go in 2020. That didn't happen with COVID, but I want to go to Egypt. And I want to do a house swap. So I would love to you can house swap with people. And a friend of mine in high school, his mom did it. They had a house on the Cape and they would go and, whatever, I would love to go over to Sweden or Switzerland or Croatia and just, live in somebody's house for a month or two. They can come here, live in my house for a month or two and give that a try and do that and just be able to do that, once a year, once every other year, and just be able to kind of travel the world doing that. So
that is so cool. And I hadn't even ever thought about that, but that would give you a time to really immerse yourself and spend the time, given your lifestyle that you're kind of setting up for yourself. So that'd be really awesome.
Yeah. So that would be the ultimate goal.
I love it.
You hike a lot. I feel like I always see you going on these really fun adventures because I'm always jealous, right? In the middle of the day, really, achieving that time freedom that everyone is kind of looking for. So I feel like you're doing you're living the life that a lot of people are in progress of achieving, of balancing that work really hard, but then you're actively being able to, go on that hike in the middle of the day or plan these vacations. And so I really admire that. I definitely look up to you. So I think that this has been a super helpful conversation. And like I said before, I already said it, but I think you dropped so many nuggets, an interesting word, but so many pieces of gold and advice that I wish people would have told me way earlier. And so I highly encourage people to really take these to heart. And because I think that you are so great, how can everyone that's watching and listening get in touch with you?
So you can reach out either on Instagram, More Doors with Lisa, More spelled with 2 O's, Moore, or on LinkedIn, look me up, Lisa Field Moore. Either of those places you can find me. And yeah, any questions, I will talk real estate for hours. So don't hesitate to reach out, ask me any questions you have. And I'd love to answer any questions that I can and see if I can help you figure out what your next steps should be. So.
Awesome. Well, we super appreciate having you on here, Lisa. This was absolutely wonderful. I think both Liz and I, and hopefully anyone that's listening to this, it took so much information away. You've just had such an incredible journey, and we really appreciate you sharing with us that journey with us. And so thanks again for joining everyone, the From Corporate to Cash Flow podcast. Definitely stay tuned for our next episode.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.